Hello, everyone. So I'm here with Ashley today. Welcome back to the channel, Ashley.
Hi.
And we're going to be discussing Indra as described in the Rig Veda. Now, this isn't the best translation of the Rig Veda, especially since it's by Penguin Classics, but I think it's a very basic one that we can probably work through. So we're going to be talking about Indra and what the Veda says about Indra in these 1.5 pages. Particularly, it's about 160 pages in, and it's once again the Penguin Classic one, so that will vary between different books. But um, we'll go ahead and start with the first stanza. Um, the god who had insight the moment he was born, the first who protected the gods with his power of thought, before whose hot breath and two world halves tremble at the greatness of his manly powers. He, my people, is Indra. So we're basically kind of establishing that he kind of protected all the other gods, so kind of establishing his supremacy. Of course, I think it's more related to demigods, something like that, right?
Yeah. I isn't he is he a demigod or isn't he like the king of the gods?
It's from my Hindu understanding, which I'm not really familiar with. You could say the Vedic gods as much, the ones that appear often in the Vedas. So that's why I kind of wanted to go over this. He is, I consider him a demigod. Other people will not. I consider like Shiva and Kali Ma and Brahma and Vishnu to be higher up than Indra. But we're talking about like a whole causal sphere that's kind of above, you know, other concepts on Earth and other actualities on Earth. So we're talking about different spheres of gods, in my understanding. Um,
Yeah.
so let's go to the second stanza. He who made fast the tottering earth, who made still the quaking mountains, who measured out and expanded the expanse of the air, who popped up the sky. He, my people, is Indra. So we're talking about his dominance of basically Earth and him being more. I feel like there's more of like a sky and air association here, so that
I
kind of will give us a little understanding with Western magic and stuff.
I
Um,
think that he's the equivalent roughly of Zeus
yeah,
within Hindu mythology. Yeah.
yeah, Zeus, and not so much in Norse mythology because Thor is kind of the one that wields the thunder and the lightning. So that's something that's a little bit different in the Norse tradition. But yeah, definitely Zeus in the Greek. Okay, so next stanza. He who killed the serpent and loosed the 7 rivers, who drove out the cows that had been pent up by Vala, gave birth to fire before 2 stones, the winner of booty in combats. He, my people, is Indra. So we're basically going into how he's a warrior. And Vala, as it says in the notes here, Vala is an enemy, human or demonic, who kept the cows from Indra. So, well, I guess the 7 rivers are referring to rivers in India, of course. I imagine. Um, so when it says killed the serpents in Hindu kind of mythology and understanding, serpents are very underworld type beings. They're beings of knowledge and power, but they're very below things. And when it says he slayed the serpent, it makes me feel like he slayed a force of the underworld in a way, conquering death. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So we'll go to the next stanza. He by whom all these changes were wrung, who drove the race of Dasas down into obscurity, who took away the flourishing wealth of the enemy as a winning gambler takes the take. He, my people, is Indra. So the reference to Desas is enemies of the Aryans called slaves and enslaved, which I'm not familiar with that term as much, but I don't know a whole lot about the caste system. But it seems like we're getting a lot of like human characteristics in this stanza about Indra. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and go to the next stanza. He about whom they ask, where is he? Or they say of him, the terrible one. he does not exist. He who diminishes the flourishing wealth of the enemy, as gambling does, believe in him. He, my people, is Indra. So this stanza kind of addresses atheism, I suppose. Does that sound like what it addresses? Because go ahead.
Oh, well, it seems like Indra is probably an older god. Like he developed at an earlier phase when Hinduism was first developing. That's what it sounds like to me because he has less metaphor connected to him. Like he's more like an actual sky god. Like he seems like he's more like Zeus. Like there's not as much metaphor. He's yeah.
It's very literal. It's very like
Yeah.
it's very like saying exactly what the actions are instead of referring to actions, I
Yeah.
suppose. Okay, let's see. Next stanza. He who encourages the weary and the sick and the poor, priest who is in need, who helps the man who harnesses the stones to press soma, he who has lips fine to drinking, he, my people, is Indra. So soma is, if we're gonna look at it literally, it's this kind of ecstatic,
Drug.
enlightening drink in a way that
Oh,
people may, huh?
I thought it was a drug, but it was a drink. Is that what it is?
It's, as far as I know, it's like both, but that's only the literal version of it. Now, there's another reference to soma that actually the yogi can make within his own mouth, kinda. Once you reach a certain yogic stage, you can actually press the tip of your tongue to the top of your mouth, and it's said that you can make your own soma, and that's the proper soma. So
I
that's
started
but
my tongue, but I'm not
yeah,
that.
but that's higher yogic stage than I am, of course, and I imagine both of us are. But I mean, the true soma is made just by oneself within the body. It's not about making it with herbs or like as a drug or something. So I think there's a difference that needs to be made there. Um, so we'll go to the next stanza. He under whose command are horses and cows and villages and all chariots who gave birth to the sun and the dawn and led out the waters. He, my people, is Indra. Pretty straightforward. Next stanza. He who is invoked by both of two armies, enemies locked in combat, on this side and that side. He who is even invoked separately by each of two men, standing on the very same chariot. He, my people, is Indra. So we're obviously seeing that people who both believe in Indra are fighting in this one. That's a thing. So he's dominated multiple kingdoms. That's kind of what it establishes. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move to the next stanza. He without whom people do not conquer. He whom they call on for help when they are fighting. Who became the image of everything. Who shakes the unshakable. He, my people, is Indra. So we're talking about battle qualities some more. And of course, he's described as a conqueror in I think a few of these stanzas. So that's definitely a reference to his relationship to battle and kind of what was on people's minds who would call upon him in this way, in this form, I guess you could say. Um, so he without whom people do not conquer. Okay, we got through that one. He who killed with his weapon all those who had committed a great sin, even when they did not know it. He who does not pardon the arrogant man for his arrogance, who is the slayer of the Dasyos. He, my friend, is Indra. So we're looking at wrath here, and Zeus was also very wrathful. So we're not seeing a lot of mercy thus far in Indra, except when he is absolutely pleased with you. So I guess that kind of coincides with a lot of the other pantheons. Would you agree?
hmm Well, that's why I think he's a more ancient god. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, my idea is that he's more ancient, but like, so we have this timeline. I think that these Vedas are ancient enough to where there might have been. I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this. There might have been a dip in what people could understand and realize, or all of this is very much regarding our internal struggles. So it's kind of like one of two options. And maybe these
it,
things are in actuality, but people are just concerned with what's on Earth and what's surrounding Earth, the forces. But that's not really for me to say. Um, okay, next stanza. He who in the 40th autumn discovered Sambara, living in the mountains, who killed the violent serpent, the Danu, as he lay there. He, my people, is Indra. So let me go to the notes here so I can figure out what. Sambara was a demon who kept the Soma from Indra in mountain fortresses. And that seems very interesting because it could mean that he kept enlightenment from him. But anyway, and yeah, so that's the note on that one. He, the mighty bull, who with his 7 reins let loose the 7 rivers to flow, who with his thunderbolt in his hand hurled down Rahina as he was climbing up to the sky. He, my people, is Indra. So I imagine that is a demon. Yeah, if I can find that. Yeah, that's the last note. A more obscure enemy, and whom nothing but this is known. Okay, so we're seeing how he's slaying demon after demon, and he seems to be very much a demon slayer, and he's kind of being founded as that. Okay, we'll go to the last stanza on this page. He, the mighty bull, who with his 7 reins let loose the 7 rivers to flow. Okay, I already read that. So the seven rivers. Do you think that they're just rivers in India, or do you think that there's some kind of metaphorical meaning to it?
I think it's probably both, because what I think happened, and from an anthropological standpoint, I think that the tribes and the people would have certain mythos around the actual rivers, and then it would grow into like a metaphor. So it's like it maybe has a root in a literal river system or group of rivers, and then it goes into metaphor,
That makes sense. Okay, next stanza. Even the sky and the earth bow low before him, and the mountains are terrified of his hot breath. He who is known as the Soma drinker, establishing that again, with a thunderbolt in his hand, with a thunderbolt in his palm, he, my people, is Indra. So, of course, we're seeing that kind of similar dichotomy with the king of the gods, Zeus and Indra, both having the lightning bolt. So I just kind of wonder why it's different in Norse mythology. But yeah, moving on. He who helps with his favor, the one who presses, and the one who cooks, the praiser and the preparer, he for whom prayer is nourishment, for whom Soma is a special gift, he, my people, is Indra. So let's go down to another note. The one who presses and the one who cooks, the Soma. So that's another Soma reference.
Yeah, Soma.
Enlightenment.
Well, Soma also was like, there was a very specific time in history when like Soma was very big in the Middle East and India, that whole region. Like it was a big thing, and actually there were whole systems for trade from like these places where they like cultivated the plants that they used to make it, because I think it was like 2 or 3 different plants that they mixed together to make the Soma.
Yeah, and I guess they press it as it refers to here. So we do have the material definition, and then we have the higher definition. So, and what I learned from Yogananda is that yogis can make their own Soma, and that's the best way to do it, and that's the purest way to do it. But you can technically do it with herbs as well, because what exists within us also exists in nature. So
similar to DMT, probably DMT.
Yeah, I think that it's very similar to that. We have the ability to make that within our brain. Should we figure out how to deploy it exactly, or how to master our own minds to where we can actually focus that. So we'll go to the last stanza before we kind of discuss a little bit. You who furiously grasp the prize for the one who presses and the one who cooks, you are truly real. Let us be dear to you, Indra, all our days, and let us speak as men of power in a sacrificial gathering. And it feels like the entire thing is very much like a recitation and a prayer, which is actually what it's supposed to be. We get the image of people saying this around the sacrificial fire, and kind of saying these lines, and of course in Sanskrit, but and invoking Indra both within and without, and trying to make that connection to a higher level of consciousness that exists here on Earth and kind of around Earth in a way. Very much to do with Earth, though. I think Indra is Krishna. That the Krishna force, for instance, is vaster, but Indra, I think, is very much to do with Earth. Would you agree?
Yeah, I was actually just listening to like a podcast or something when they were talking about Krishna interacting with Indra, actually, and Krishna told Indra that he was not the only Indra that had been, that there had been many, many Indras.
Yeah,
So,
and so he says, I think it's Krishna in the form of a little boy, and
mhm.
Indra goes to him, and Indra, you know, he thinks he's very, very great, and then I think it was Krishna, I could be wrong, and he points at the ground, and there's this long line of beetles, and he says, you see those beetles? Every single one of those beetles was an Indra in the past.
I thought it was
So
ants. Could have been beetles.
it was either beetles or ants. I can't remember. But the point is, even gods like Indra can fall, and they're certainly not as great as vaster gods like, I guess you'd say, Krishna and those higher realm gods.
Yeah. Which ones? It would be Vishnu, um,
Brahma,
Shiva.
Shiv,
Yeah.
and, well, according to me, Kalima, of course. But that's a whole nother conversation, I guess. Is there anything you want to say about the Rig Veda or Hinduism in general before we kind of wrap this up?
Um, in general, no, I'm a
Yeah.
little less. No.
What mantra do you like most?
Oh, I don't mantra to Indra, but
Yeah, I know.
anyway.
I know.
Om Krim Mahakalikaye Namaha. That's
Yeah,
probably.
definitely Kali mantra. Yeah, I actually use that one sometimes myself. So, in closing, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to correct me in the comment section below. My Sanskrit pronunciation is terrible, and this isn't the best version of the Rig Veda. And if you just want to talk about Indra with me, feel free to shoot it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear it. We'll check it out. Thank you very much, Ashley, for being here with me.
Thank
And,
you.
I hope to see all of you on the channel in the future.